So in order to use eazyBI to its full potential, it requires a lot of different skill sets and different levels of understanding of the product and how to use it. And sometimes it can be overwhelming with the information that's available out there. And also, a lot of times, the information comes from different sides. Something about custom fields, something MDX, and then you look in different parts of the information about different parts of the product. So today, I just want to go through different steps or different levels of understanding of eazyBI, so you can maybe put yourself like, okay, how far am I in the journey, or how much do I understand about the product? And I want to give you some tips on how do you improve your knowledge and what are the next steps, and maybe what you could learn more when you're using eazyBI. So I'm Guido. I've been working on the eazyBI platform for 7 years, and I do a lot of training for the customers. I enjoy doing that, and let's go. So first of all, the first level of understanding on eazyBI is a dashboard viewer. And you might say, well, just look at the dashboard and everything's there, But there's actually more hidden gems there, or some functionality that's really useful. And also, if you're even an admin that creates dashboards, that's useful for you. The first reason why it's good to understand dashboards is because you can unite reports together, because there might be one person in your company that has a report about issues and created issues result. There's another guy who's doing, and then both of them have mediocre reports and you're using them separately. But if you can communicate, it's like, oh, you're using this, okay, you're using this, let's put together it in dashboard together, and both of you can use it at the same time. For that, of course, these are the filters on the top of the dashboard. And by the way, I was doing a training recently with a partner, and he said that he's an admin, he makes MDX calculations. He said he's never visited a dashboard page at all. So for some of you, it's obvious, but for some not. What you can do, you can make reports, put them together, and then, hey, say, oh, Patrick, you can use this dashboard. If you want to see it about yourself, you can select Patrick, and Sandra, if you want to use it, you can click on Sandra, and then both people can use the same dashboard. And you can even automate some of that stuff, but unfortunately, I don't have time today to go into a lot of detailed information, so I'll just quickly go over, show you where are the available functionalities, so you can explore them later, right? So another good reason why you should, why understanding dashboards is really useful, because you can add more value if you deliver your dashboards to your customers, your colleagues, your partners. Because one thing is you're like, hey, here's the dashboard. I made it for you. Here you go. Right? Another thing is if you open up a dashboard and say, hey, so here I made this dashboard. If you want to select a different time period, you can come and do it here. If you need to see when the last time is imported, you can see here, switch to table view. And then if you want to see more detailed information, you can come here and then drill across about the assignee, And now all of a sudden, it's not just a dashboard, but it's an interactive system where they actually can find and look for information. They're like, oh, wow, this is not just something to look at. And which brings me to a third point about the drill I just showed you. Sometimes customers ask questions. They're like, oh, I have this report about issues created, issues resolved, and I want to see who created all these issues. Can you make a report out of that? And if you know how dashboards work, if you know that there's drills available here, you can drill across and do assignees. You can say to the person, hey, we don't need to make a report out of that. You can just come here, select drill across assignee or user, and you get this information. And they're like, okay, that's cool. That's all I needed, right? And then you can save space in the dashboard. People can use it for other scenarios, and it's really, really nice. So in dashboard going over, the functionality is, of course, filters. So as you see, there are some filters that are for common, where I change it, it changes for all the reports. You can set those up if you edit the dashboard. This is one common question I get a lot. And then you have this common page button available here. And it works only when you have enabled editing of the dashboard. Then when you're filtering, you can select multiple things. you can again switch to table here, a couple of options here. On top of the dashboard, you should explore these options when you present, in the product. And again, if you click on specific measures, you should be familiar with the drill options here. And on top of that, there's some couple of more options, a couple of standard calculations when you click on measures, where you can select something like what's the average, how many issues do we create in average. There's a quick, shortcuts that you can use when using dashboards. Then the next step, a little bit much more harder, is to visualize. And there's not much, it's not difficult, there's not much going on there, but the main thing you need to do in order to learn the visualization is just to explore and try things out. And one good reason why visualization options, it's good to know visualization options, is because you can add a lot more value to customers in a very simple way. And we have kind of an internal policy that when we deliver reports and dashboards to customers, if it's an easy thing to do, we just take a couple of extra steps to do it. So if a customer asks you a simple report with issues created, issues resolved, you're like, okay, so this is what the customer wanted. How can we quickly improve it, right? So we can switch it maybe to a bar chart, make it vertical, switch the hour span type to a line chart, and all of a sudden it's not just a simple table. Now it adds more value to the customers, right? And so the available options here are, of course, different chart types, which are the starting points for the charts. And then if you select a specific chart type, there will be shortcuts here, so you learn this by exploring. Just click through all of them, see what they do. And most importantly, you can change the looks of specific measures by clicking on the colors. Sometimes it can be a little challenging if you have a line, you have to click very specifically there, but here are the options, So if you want to learn about visualization, you should definitely explore those options. So the next step in difficulty is, of course, creating reports, report creation. And in reality, the gist of, or the basics of report creation are quite simple. You have 3 sections: pages, rows, and columns. So you grab these boxes, if you drop them in rows, you'll see that in your rows, like projects. If you drop something in pages, those will show up as filters, so you can filter by those. And if you need to see what kind of numbers you would like to see here in the table, you go to measures, and then you select those numbers, right? And that's are the very basics of report creation. And of course, there are some more options if you click on the columns, but at this stage, the most important thing actually for you, if you want to learn and continue using eazyBI, is to start to pay attention and notice of what you're actually doing. Because you need to start speaking in eazyBI's language. Because there's a lot of hints of what is going on. For example, if I look at the top here, then it says dimensions. You're like, okay, so these boxes, I guess they are dimensions. And if I click on one of the boxes, there's a couple of sections here where it says select individual members. Okay, so this is where I can get members. So here, there's a section called hierarchy level members. So this is where I can find hierarchies and their levels. So this here, if I look at this is, these are measures. So numbers must mean they are measures. And then if I come here, I know like if I want to find some kind of information about properties, about issues, then if I select some kind of information that is usually not a number, then these are called properties, right? And as you create more and more reports, you should get more and more familiar with these words, because once you learn how to create reports, you probably have some kind of scenarios you want to make something a little bit more complex, or your report is kind of uncomfortable, you need to do a lot of steps to do your report, and that's where, and by the way, there's also a documentation page about main concepts, and I highly recommend just reading through it because it covers, again, dimensions, measures, properties, and so on. And the next step of your report creation is mostly automation. Because yes, I'm talking about calculated members and measures, I'm talking about MDX, and there are some scenarios where you cannot do things with report creation, but the reality is that most of your calculated members and measures that you will create, there will be more like an automation, right? They will be mimicking what are you doing in your report creation, right? So when you create reports, you have to pay attention. Okay, so I put in a hierarchy and I select a level and do that. And then you just do the same thing when you're writing your MDX calculations. So let me give you a quick example. Here I have a report where I have selected a list of issues. Selected year 2022. I have selected issues created, resolved, and I have used the filter functionality in reports. So I have filtered issues that were created and resolved in 2022. Then I have selected the issue creation date, resolution date, and this is, for example, one of the limitations you cannot do with report creation. I calculated how many days are between those two dates. And then I used a standard calculation. You can click on the column, add calculated, and then select average. And now I see average work days difference for issues that were created and resolved in 2022. Now, if I look at the logic of what I did, I can make like a flow, or I can write steps on what we did or what we took. So we took the list of issues. We filtered out issues that were created and resolved. Then for those issues, we took the creation date, the resolution date, we got the difference, and from that difference, we got the average, right? So we're just representing the same steps within the report, just kind of in graphical way. And if you know how to do that, you know that you can visualize the steps you're doing. The next step is to fill out the spaces, right? Here, unfortunately, I don't have time to go over this again. I did it last year in eazyBI Community Days as well. But here, so what I'm doing is I'm using the understanding of MDX functions, data types, and the things you mentioned, interface, to fill out the structure of what I do with my MDX. So, for example, if I go to MDX function reference page, which is my, and probably yours as well, like a handbook for all the calculated members. So this is where I find all my answers for calculated measures and members that I write. Then this documentation page is also structured in a similar way. So hierarchy functions, that's something similar, right? Member functions, we heard about members there, right? Then we have level functions. Okay, that sounds something familiar as well, right? So these are the same things we do in interface, but we're doing that the same thing in code, we're writing that. And there's, since there are a couple of more data types, I can suggest you a presentation by Zana where she went over some kind of extra data types. And she also talks about debugging, is very nice. So if you'd like to learn more about it, you can go ahead and check that video out. Unfortunately, again, I'm trying to go through this very quickly. Then, sometimes if you, so we know how to look at things, we know how to visualize things, now we know how to build reports, and now we know how to automate this and do more complex things with reports. But sometimes there's something that's missing. Like, there's sometimes you want to create something, you just don't have the data on it. You don't have the information, you don't have the dimension about it, and or maybe you have the data on, but the reports are running quite slowly because you have to like go through issues and filter out some kind of specific ones. And at this stage, you have to become a builder. So now, before you used all the available tools that eazyBI had to create reports, now you have to make your own tools. Now you have to be like, okay, so eazyBI had this available, but now I have to build something on top of that. And that's where custom fields come in. And the most important question really when defining custom fields is to understand what do you need? And I don't mean it only in a way that what kind of end result you want. I want in this report to have a column that shows this number, or in rows, I want to see a list of this. In order to write custom fields and understand how to do it, you have to also know what you need in eazyBI language, right? And what I need is, do you need measures? Do you need hierarchies? Do you need levels, right? Do you need properties? And the same thing within the reports, the same language applies here in the custom fields, right? And when I do trainings, I do one exercise with my attendees where I actually make them build their own data cube from scratch. So how this works is that I give them a file, source file, where I just have exported Jira data, just issue key, issue name, when was the date, what's the issue type, and I said to them, hey, so here's the cube builder. Just build me another issues data cube. And I give them this as an exercise, because the hardest part about adding custom fields is, my experience and teaching, is just understanding exactly what you need, right? Or understanding, if you import this, what do I need to create? Or if I import that, how it's going to look? So if you can, so by building your own cube, you are the designer, you are the architect, you are the one who's going to create your own system where you will create reports, and that if you try that out, you'll be able to build a deeper understanding of what do you need to do with report creation. And after that, another crucial part about custom fields is understanding how to get what you need. And I highly suggest for you to try out and play around with the debugging functionality, so where you can put in a just Jira number. It shows you in JSON format what does it return. And here, the challenge is, can you get the exact data? Can you pull out from the JSON the exact field, the exact value that you need? And here's an example where I usually also give in trainings, where I ask my attendees to pull out a div field, and so how you do it, you start with the top, where we start with the field. So we want something from all the issues. We want something for the fields. We want something from the fields. Then we want to grab something from the component. And so here's one tricky part. This is not a hash. This is an array. So we have to put a 0 or 1. This is the first one. This is the second one. And then we need to specify which field we want to get from those. So this is in very short explanation of all the levels of understanding on eazyBI and how to improve yourself. And there's also, wanted to mention that there's also some good training videos by eazyBI in their documentation page if you want to learn more, and even some training videos on specific topics. So that's that for me, and happy learning.
Thanks, Guido. Thanks, Guido, a lot for your presentation. Do we have any questions for Guido? Yes, we do.
Okay.
Good. You're ready to act? So go.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. We are thinking of creating an academy, and among the offers we offer, there is eazyBI, of course. My question, based on your experience as a trainer, how much time is needed on average for basic functionalities of eazyBI?
To explain basic. So to explain, if we, for example, take a report building, I usually take about an hour to explain report building functionality in general. But then there's another question, and then usually in the trainings, I focus a lot on practical part, actually giving people to try things out, because when people try things out, all of a sudden a lot of questions come up, then they get stuck somewhere, But so explaining, for example, report creation takes an hour, then 2 hours of practice, and then people kind of get comfortable about it. When we talk about MDX, however, that topic is very
delicate.
You can talk about it forever, or more or less, or how many.
For eternity.
You can basically with MDX. Here's the thing about MDX: you can talk how many functions are there in MDX. You can go through all of them, because what I do in my trainings, I try to teach the basics of how the functions, how you can open up documentation, read about the function, and then know how to use it. And the reality is that people can only learn MDX when they go after the training and they actually practice and try things out, right? So,
For a session, how much time in average you have to?
In my trainings, the total training time for all the sessions is 20 hours. 18 hours plus 3 hours another training.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. More questions? No questions? Good, then thank you, Guido, for your presentation today.